Good morning. Checking in?
Hi, yes, my name is Glenn Hausman. I would like to use this credit card with my name on it. See right there, Glenn Hausman.
Sir, ma'am, I don't think you really are the Glenn Hausman, the world-famous hospitality internet radio star.
Oh, come off it, lady. He's not that famous.
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to No Vacancy Podcast. It's me, Glenn Hausman. I'm so excited to have you here. All right, so we got 100 episodes already in the can, and this is episode number 101. I'm still shocked. I still can't believe I've been at this for nearly 2 years now, and we're putting out so much great content every single week. And if you haven't checked out our NoVacancyNews.com site, please check that one out. I want to hear what you guys have to say, what you think all about it, how we're trying to reinvent how news in the hospitality industry is delivered to each and every one of you. And, of course, it wouldn't be a show unless I said that this show is brought to you in part by Duetto, the revenue strategy technology platform thousands of hotels are using to make more money. I like making more money. I know you like making more money. So be sure to check out my recent interview with their CEO, Patrick Bosworth, and what you need to know about hotel revenue strategy, and find out how Duetto can help you at getrevenueresults.com. And they've also come out with an amazing new white paper all about OTAs and how to minimize your risk with them. You're going to love hearing that one as well. And you can check out our ad on NoVacancyNews.com and click through to that to download that Duetto white paper. All right, let's set that gear shift to the high gear of your soul. I've got a very special guest with me today. Gentlemen, I've been getting to know for the last year as I've been working on my Here to Stay TV project with good folks at BridgeStreet.com. And that's Piers Brown. He's the CEO of International Hospitality Media. They're based over in London. They publish BoutiqueHotelNews.com and ServiceDepartmentNews.com. And I've got to know him through his awesome events that he puts on, the Service Department Summit here in the Americas. We hung out at Service Department Summit Recharge, and I've been meaning to have him on the show. So we had to bring him in through Skype because, God forbid, we actually get to do this in person. Mr. Piers Brown, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Glenn. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having time in your busy schedule, flying all over the world, doing events, putting out great publications to talk with me. So, I think the natural place to start is, tell us a little bit about your company. I find it interesting that you have the whole boutique side of the business, and then that service department side of the business where you're doing events and a magazine as well. How did you get involved in both of these sectors of our great industry?
Well, we focus on growth areas within hospitality, and we like, the granularity of the boutique and lifestyle hotel sector, and of course, the service department and extended stay space. Mm-hmm. Both are growing, gangbusters at the moment. On the boutique side, you've got lots of lifestyle brands launching. Service departments and extended stay, very much the same. In fact, you could argue there's a blurring occurring across the two.
Yeah, that's a fascinating idea because when I think of service departments, originally I would have think of very staid, very formulaic type of a thing, but they are definitely becoming more boutique-y in feeling. An example, I had a great opportunity to stay at one operated by Bridge Street in London recently when I was at the Business Travel Show, and I loved how it kind of mixed classic British look on the outside, but was very modern and boutique-y on the inside. So I totally get where you're coming from.
Yeah, no, sure.
So, all right. So Piers, we were just, as this show is coming out, and the show is being released on April 20th, on April 9th and 10th, we were at the Service Department Summit Americas. And sorry, guys, I wanted to run this a week prior, but it was difficult for us to get together. Plus, I had to do that 100th episode. And, I'll tell you, Piers, I thought the event was pretty eye-opening to me. I think the best place for us to start is you brought me in for us to work together on what I thought was one of the most rewarding projects that I've worked in all year, and that would be filming a man on the street video to talk to the average Joe and Jane about what they knew or didn't know about the service department industry. And the results, while not surprising, were also pretty darn surprising. What did you think of the video and the findings within it, and share a little bit about what we found in that video as we went ahead and take these interviews?
Yeah, sure. I really enjoyed it, first off. Speaking to New Yorkers and of course, guests, hospitality guests, the lack of awareness was outstanding. Right. People was going, what's a service department? What's corporate housing? You had Airbnb mentioned a lot. But the good thing was there was lots of enthusiasm. When we explained, what the accommodation type was, boy, did they buy into it.
Yeah, they sure did. And let me tell you, for all of you hoteliers out there, you must watch this video. You can find it on Service Department News, and I have a link to it on novacancynews.com, and I'll put a link to the video in the show notes as well. To me, what was most shocking and surprising, and for our mostly hotelier audience here, is how focused every single person was on Airbnb, how they seem to be weighing Airbnb opportunities equally, if not more so, than traditional hotel stays. And they're not looking at it as I want to be loyal to a particular brand. They're just interested in value and price.
Sure. Another thing that came across, Glenn, was choice, in my view. They valued choice. Weren't very brand loyal. We asked them to name some hotel brands, and there was only really, say, 6 or 7. No extended stay brands were mentioned at all. You had one, maybe one service department, which was Ascot. Out of all the interviews we did.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Ascot's definitely not a household name. I was surprised that one gentleman mentioned it, but what was surprising to me is that it's that there could be, 200, 300, 400 of an extended stay hotel brand, but when asked about it, consumers still didn't seem to know what they were. So how do you see all of this in the big picture of things? I thought it was surprising in the sense that they didn't know it, but it was kind of exciting in the sense that there's so, I think, much opportunity for service department providers and extended stay hotels to leverage in the future.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. At the conference, of course, you had Booking.com and Airbnb. Booking.com, they're all about giving people choice.
Right.
I think they categorize the accommodation type based on apartments.
Right.
So they are sort of getting there. But I do wonder whether it's in the interests of Booking.com to be super specific with accommodation type, because at the end of the day, the commissions, etc., are all the same. So, we had somebody at the conference say, somebody turned up at my service department. It wasn't exactly what they wanted because it was a hotel. Maybe, we need to be better at engaging with that guest to make sure that the next time they come, they understand exactly what a service department is prior and post stay.
Yeah, and I think that guests really like the whole idea of the service department concept because there's more space. It's one of those things they don't know about it. Once they're introduced to it, once they stay at it, they become instant fans. And it is, like I just said, that more space, the more ability to be in one central location with family, friends, or whatever it is, as opposed to having like 3 or 4 hotel rooms on a single floor. Now, one thing that Marriott is experimenting with right now, and it reminds me of kind of like the suites concept from college dorm rooms, is where you have a common area and like 3 or 4 rooms that all go to that one common area. I think that's an interesting development in the future, which kind of mimics what we're seeing in the service department kind of a sector and the extended stay sector, when it gives people a place to commune, but it's also a little bit larger in size.
Sure. And if you look at, the boutique and lifestyle hotel space, the front lobby is a really, really big cash generator for the hotels now. And clearly, it's not a product problem for the service department sector.
Nope.
But one thing that needs to improve is, public perception and understanding. And it does have a lot going for it. If you look from an investor's perspective, this time last year, very little activity, but boy, in the last 12 months, have the big guys come in. Brookfield acquiring Seiko, Mapletree, taking 100% of Oakwood, Synergy, Ascot taking, I think, 80% of Ascot. Aboda, we had Lee Curtis at the conference, just been acquired by Westbridge Capital. And there's Woodspring being acquired by Choice. What a great level of activity, and I'm expecting the next 12 months to be even bigger in terms of acquisitions and sales.
So based on all of the CEOs that you had at the Service Department Summit Americas, and even the Recharge event that we had in Amsterdam that I attended back in January? Well, was it January? Yeah. Boy, this year's going super fast. Do you see more of the traditional hotel companies maybe waking up to this and trying to get involved even more in extended stay, or start to dip their toes into service departments, either through acquisitions or just overall development of product?
It's definitely on the extended stay side. I think it's easier for the hotel companies to transition across there. Mark Skinner, Highland Group, said 96 months of consistent ADR growth in the extended stay space. There's a few players that are starting looking at the lean luxury side. Uptown Suites being one which launched last year. Also, perhaps with the growth in urban living, I think the service department sector will benefit a lot by that. The way people actually live, more rentals, etc. Interesting what Airbnb are doing, the trial product down in Kissimmee in Florida, where they're encouraging renters to rent out their apartments when they're not there. Is that the future of urban living over the next few years?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. For me, I never understood that whole thing of renting out my own space or doing home swaps or any of that kind of stuff. I mean, I got my stuff, and I definitely don't want people poking around in my things at home.
That's you, Glenn.
I know.
One of the things that came back to me really strongly on the streets of New York, I felt old.
Right.
I felt old. I was really pleased to engage with, the future guest, the guest of the future. And that is what these new brands are doing, particularly Airbnb. They make ease of use, you book within two or three clicks, 100% transparency. I don't think any hotelier, hotel owner, service department owner can feel comfortable with what was talked through in New York.
Right.
However, I think there's an element of reassurance and opportunity there too, provided people are there and they can take it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think that the number one thing that everyone listening needs to think about is you need to create a different perception that you have right now. We're all blinded by bias in some sort of way, right? We talk a lot about that when it comes to the toxic political situation that we have here in the United States, and to some extent the UK as well. So you all have natural confirmation bias in your general lives. And one of the things that I'm afraid of is that you're not going to see the wholesale changes that are coming down the pike right now, particularly with the younger generation. And the thing that struck me most when speaking to the dozens of people that we spoke to on the streets of Manhattan was about how differently that they think about the accommodation experience than either you or I do, Piers. And that, to me, was a signal that we can't rely on necessarily what our gut tells us, because our gut is filled with outdated and sometimes irrelevant information. And these younger folks are really on to something different, want to experience things different, and because of that, we need to think different. Right, Piers?
Sure. Two words came through from those interviews, to my business and perhaps other listeners: being relevant. That was the key. That's our sort of mantra at the moment at IHM. Let's just be relevant to our audience. And you could argue that next couple of years is the brands that are going to win are those that are as relevant as possible to their target audience.
So how do you think a brand can be more relevant to a target audience going in the future? Now, this could be either on the service department side or the boutique hotel side, which you are also very involved in.
I would say, I think we're in the age of assistance. But assistance not necessarily in the way that assistance might have been described a decade ago. Obviously, the mobile phone is quite a powerful tool.
Right.
Use the mobile phone as an assistance lever based around, guest experience. And of course it is, we're getting there. Hospitality's getting there, your automatic check-in, et cetera, but there's a lot that can be done. And ironically, the game changers out there like Uber and Airbnb are probably the best at it.
Right. Why do you think they're so good at it? Because they came in without any preconceptions, or just because they're new, or what is it about these new era companies that seem to be connecting so meaningfully with customers?
Ease of use. Ease of use. I think they keep it really simple. They're really, really transparent. I think Airbnb is the number 2 recognized brand worldwide.
Jesus.
That's very, very powerful.
I bet either Coca-Cola or McDonald's is really pissed to hear that.
And also, I think there's an element, of with the growth of social media and young people today, they like to be slightly rebellious, maybe not go with the status quo, and do things differently. And, I think particularly on the boutique and lifestyle hotel space, there are, some real new up-and-coming brands out there that do things differently. The Hoxton, for instance, launching in Brooklyn soon. I'm really looking forward to see what the Ennismore team do with that, having, launched the hotel in London a few years back. So, there's lots of pioneers out there within the industry, and we shouldn't forget that.
Yeah. So are there any pioneers out there that you're particularly excited about?
I'd probably say the Airbnb link up with the developer in Kissimmee. Right. And it was mentioned at the conference, Brookfield, the managing director, Jonathan Moore, they've just put $200 million into that development company to, I suppose, ultimately to work with Airbnb a lot more closely. So I think there are teething issues as well. So maybe sort of watch the space over the next 6 months. One thing's for sure, though, if it doesn't work, Airbnb will be transitioning into something else. And that was the discussion about transitioning your business, which was the CEO panel discussion at the service department summit. I thought it was quite entertaining. The company's called Nido. Nido, if people want to check it out.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit more about that panel with transitioning your business with the CEOs that you had on stage.
Yeah, so we had Dean Schreiber, who's MD of Oakwood Asia Pacific. He was really talking about the recent investment by Mapletree,
right, and
also the going into the tiger economy in China and some of the issues that the company are experiencing there and successes. Lee Curtis was quite reflectory in his approach, because he's in acquisition mode from an operating standpoint, and did say that maybe some of the smaller corporate housing and service apartment companies need to get their act in order if they're looking to sell their business in terms of how they present the information, etc. You had Sean Worker, complete transition of his business, Bridge Street for Business as an OTA, quite a compelling message.
Yes, and let me interrupt by saying if you want to hear more about how Sean Worker, the CEO of Bridge Street, is transforming the business from a traditional company to a technology company, listen to our podcast. You can check that out at the No Vacancy podcast pages. The interview ran back in February. Sorry to bother you, Piers. Go on.
That's all right. And George Westwell, the MD of Cheval Residences, those guys are launching a new brand, I think, soon, and it's going to be interesting what happens there.
Excellent. Any other big observations from the conference that you think are important to share with us right now?
Yes, I think so. I think sometimes organisers maybe underestimate the talent that's actually in the room.
Right.
So what we tried to do was get everybody involved as a collective to raise the level of engagement in the room. And an example perhaps of that was the discussion after the video,
right, which
was quite inspiring, I felt, and also the amount of roundtable discussions that we had, and some of the topics maybe blockchain, blockchain in hospitality. New brands on the block was another. The apartment of the future. And we try to engender, a bit of fun in the room as well. Business is perhaps hard enough sometimes,
right?
But some of the best ideas can come at the some of the moments that you don't think that they're going to happen.
Absolutely. And I got to tell you, I've told this to you offline, and now I will officially pucker up and give you the big kiss that you deserve. The events were so great because you're really rethinking everything from top to bottom. The whole idea of sitting in a conference room and just listening to talking heads all day is something that's outdated with the way that we connect with audiences today. And you're really doing a great job at bringing people either into the discussions in a meaningful way that leverages the brain trust that you have in that room, or going remote and taking people out to actually experience the products and services that we're all talking about on a day-to-day basis. So I think the 1-2 punch of showing people places in action and design and the service departments out there are pretty cool. And then having such great discussions in these small roundtable things and everybody kind of reporting back and all working together for the common good of the businesses is something that's fun, interesting, and I got to be honest with you, keeps me awake. Some of these conferences I go to, I'm sitting in a room all day, I'm falling asleep, but not at your event. I particularly love the CEO panel that we had where you guys trucked out beers so we could have beers with the bosses, as you called it. Love that.
Nice one.
Yeah.
One of my highlights was the trip to Convene. Mm-hmm. The company that is, I suppose, game change or trying to game change the office meeting place. When we went to see that, they're adopting a hotel mentality in their approach, and I could get the reason why. Again, they've just had, I think, 200 million investment from Brookfield. Brookfield are all over the place at the moment with investments.
Right. And my big prediction is, I'm glad that you mentioned Convene. I see the work sector and the hospitality sector really merging together substantially in the next 5 years. I guarantee there will be hotel brands that we're going to really work hard on that co-located workspace, and I think there's going to be workspaces that are going to have a lot more hotel elements in the future. So, Piers, any other big observations that you want to mention before we wrap up?
I'm just really excited for hospitality and travel, generally. Travel and hospitality, I think, are in a good place, but it's those brands that, remain relevant, are close to their guests, maybe experiment and are seen as, how can I put it, one of the game changers of hospitality, whatever sector that they're in. I'm really, really excited about the future.
Excellent. All right, so I'd love to hear you do some shameless plugs, but I know you've got the Boutique and Lifestyle Hotel Summit 2018 coming up in May, which also includes the Boutique Hotel Awards, the Boho Awards 2018 on May 21st. What else you got going on?
We've got that. Something that I'm really interested about during that event is the tours. We're touring Box Park, which is a retail real estate concept in a happening place called Shoreditch. We're seeing a private members club called Shoreditch House. We're also going to see the Curtain, which is Michael Atcherbaum's new property within the Gansevoort.
Oh, cool.
Gansevoort brand. So lots going on there. Just about to announce our Middle East event, Service Department Summit Middle East. Again, that marketplace has got its challenges, but, we're committed to the growth of the sector. Dubai 2020 is a big push on that exhibition. They've just ordered £40 billion worth of Emirates planes. With regards to airlift. If you look at Dubai over the last 10, 15 years, from what it was to what it is now, in 15 years' time, I think the Middle East and particularly Dubai is just going to continue being a really good destination, not just for leisure travel, but business travel too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I really want to get over to in November 18 to the Service 2018 to the Service Apartment Summit Middle East. I think that'll be a pretty cool one. Man, I'm dying to go over to that part of the world and see some of the products that are over there. Be sure to check out Piers' Service Department news, and of course the Boutique Lifestyle Hotel Summit and Boutique Hotel News. You could just Google those and find them, and I'll put some show links in there as well. Any more shameless plugs that you want to do, Piers?
Yeah, definitely. The Service Department Summit Europe. which is our biggest event. It's 3 times the audience that was in New York.
Yep.
Lots more planned, based on the successes of America, and to introduce those gradually to perhaps the agenda. So watch this space. The date is July the 10th to the 11th. I think we're almost sold out in terms of stands. But if listeners want to get in touch with me, email address is piers@servicedapartmentnews.com.
Beautiful. I love it. And Piers, thank you so much for being here today. What a great, interesting conversation. Again, a sector for everyone to look out for, especially extended stay. Now, speaking of extended stay, stick around, because on the other side of this break, I've got an amazing conversation with Eric Jacobs of Marriott. And, of course, he is the Chief Development Officer of Select Service and extended stay for Marriott International. I think you're going to love this conversation, recorded over at the HOA event, so we got great video on that too. Thanks for all of you for listening, and we'll be right back after this commercial break.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Glenn Hausman, and you know me from the No Vacancy podcast, but I have got an all-new show coming, and I'm partnering up with the #1 guy in hospitality, Mr. Anthony Melchiori.
Now, it's called the yin and yang of hospitality.
That's right.
So I need to know going forward, because I'm a control freak, am I yin or yang?
I'm definitely the one that starts with Y, and you could be whichever one you want to be.
I'll be the one that starts with Y.
All right, so you're going to have more great banter just like this every single episode on the yin and yang of hospitality, found wherever your favorite podcasts are available. Any final thoughts?
Yes, I'm yang.
All right, I'm Ying. Thanks for listening.
Back to the show. It's No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Welcome back to the No Vacancy Podcast. It's me, Glenn Hausman again. I'm with Eric Jacobs, Marriott International's Chief Development Officer of Select Brands North America. And yes, I read that so I wouldn't screw it up. Hey, how are you, sir?
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Really great to have you here. So we're here, we're recording this, and it's on Facebook Live during the HOACon 2018 here at the Gaylord National in Washington, D.C. Coincidentally, a Marriott property. So do you feel extra at home when a HOA's meeting at a Marriott?
We always feel more at home when we're here, and of course, we always like to grab as many of the national conventions that we can as it relates to the industry.
Yeah.
So it's awesome to have the HOA members here with us today.
Well, thank God I have my Marriott loyalty number, because I feel like all I'm doing right now is taking tours of Gaylord hotels. I've been in Opryland, I think, twice in the last year. I'm here now at the National. I've got, I'm happy to say, and here's my shameless plug, I'm speaking at DirecTV's annual conference coming up in a few weeks at the Texan, and I just found out I'm going to be going to even more of them. When's Denver opening? Do you happen to know that offhand?
We're pushing for year end, but I think I don't want to quote 100%, but I think it might be first quarter. But they're hustling. I was out there about a month ago, and man, they're moving fast.
Yeah, I mean, well, to be fair, I didn't expect to talk about this, but of course, I just told you before we started recording that I like to talk about things that I don't expect to talk about. That project, I never thought it was going to happen, because I remember the big kerfuffle that they had with all the unions and stuff in town. It's got to be about 10 years ago when the Palms and Texan were all being built and stuff like that.
That's correct.
But it's so much more fun now to see it's actually here. It's coming. Any idea how it's going to be differing compared to the Palms and Texan or this one here?
I mean, I think one of the things that Gaylord does well, and the developers, Ira Mitzner and their group, Rita Development, they really want to look at how do we make it local. So I did a hard hat tour late last year, and the kind of the touches that you know and feel like you're in the Colorado region and in the Rocky Mountain region, I think will be key. Just like if you go to the Texan in Dallas, it's got a great feel.
So the atrium's just going to be a giant weed grow farm. Is that what I can expect? All right, just mess around. But that's Denver for you. So you've been coming to HOA since 1996. I think my first one was in 97, 98. Must be amazing to see how much this community has changed in the 20 years plus that you've been coming to this event.
It has. It's always, what's fun about coming for me is that 22 years ago I was, doing business with the grandfather, and then 5 or 10 years later I'm doing business with the father. Now we're talking about the sons and the daughters. And the second, and maybe in some cases, the third or fourth generation.
Right.
We do a lot of work, Marriott does, in partnering with a HOA, whether it's the young professional groups or the women's HOA outreach group, and we're just spending a lot of time together about how do we continue to grow the relationship. So for me, it's always a great homecoming. It's a great opportunity to see the families that I've been doing business with for 20-something years. It's a great week for me.
Yeah, I find it a great week. It's gonna be an exhausting week, and then I gotta get out of here and go into Passover Seders right from this one. So, I think this year at the Passover table we're gonna be asking 5 questions. Why is Daddy so damn sleepy at the end of it? But yeah, this event is fun. It's interesting. The people here are so great, and you're right. This is the rich American dream story. And if you're here and you're listening to the show, come on down between 1 and 3 today and tomorrow. And what we're going to be doing is hearing your AHOA stories. I want to know what your American dream has been like. But if you're listening to this on the podcast, this happened weeks ago, so ignore what I just said. So, Eric, it's been interesting to see what's going on in your world. Your job has completely changed, I would say, over the last couple of years since the Starwood Marriott acquisition. I spoke at this event 2 years ago. I had the honor of being on the main stage interviewing the CEOs, and that was back before the deal closed, and I had Arnie on it. So a lot has changed since then. What is it like taking all of these brands that came from the Starwood family and trying to incorporate them into the Marriott universe with the systems and stuff? So maybe we could just take a look at some of the brands, for example, that have come from there. I think the greatest place to start is Element and the Loft, which I think are 2 solid concepts that I think need a little bit more attention.
Yeah, I think couple things. Late 2016 when we purchased and closed on the Starwood acquisition, picking up 10 brands, 3 of them being of the select service segment, and the balance being full service luxury residence segment. We launched in January of 17 at the Alice conference, an innovation pop-up. We knew inherently the roots of Aloft and Element specifically had great connection to this consumer. The consumer loves those 2 brands, not just nationally, but internationally. So these are 2 brands that Starwood was doing a nice job of growing across continent. Traditionally, a lot of the brands have been started here, and then when you get to 500-600, then you start to take them outside the United States. They were deliberate about developing brands that they thought would meet the consumer at all different types, coming from different types of places in the world. So when we did the pop-up in 17, that was, at the end of 16, we brought together an advisory council, which is one of the things I think Marriott gets high marks for. We're always integrating and innovating with our owner-investor community and our operating community on everything that we do. We actually have over 110 different advisory councils. So the first thing we did was bring those that council together and say what's working and what needs to be modified. This wasn't going to be a revolution. This was going to be an evolution of the brands. And one of the things we also wanted to showcase was how do we innovate at Marriott today. Right.
So let me just set the stage before we go into the innovating at Marriott today part. I felt like Element and the Loft were 2 smart directions for the former Starwood to go down, but I also felt that maybe they were a little bit ahead of their time, right? I think Element focusing on wellness and stuff hadn't yet really caught on, and Aloft was all about millennials, which I always say is more of the millennial mindset type of thing, right? So that was kind of the starting point. So you got the Innovation Lab 2017 outside. It was so much fun to see. Lots of great creative stuff. And I'm sorry, let me pick up the story now.
But it's from that Innovation Day that really came or confirmed many of the concepts that our advisory council had come up with, what owners, investors, consultants, the consumers had told us. What did we needed to do to evolve the brand to make it even a better investment model? Because remember, we're catering to 2 guests. We have consumers that sleep in the beds, and we investors and builders who develop the beds, right? So we needed to make sure both were in balance, and that's what that study was about. We knew we were winning with the consumer. We weren't winning with the investment community. So we really said, hey, help us to define what's going to make this a better operating model. How do we bring the cost down? How do we make it a better investment model while still maintaining all the success that those 2 brands were having with engagement with the consumer across the world?
Okay, so customers were into it. They were feeling it, but the ownership side of it was like, maybe this is a little too expensive. Maybe we could do a little this, a little bit of that, and bring those 2 kind of sides together.
So there was yes, and so that's the innovation pop-up was very specific about what's the offering in the hotel. Now, we're in the second year of the integration. So from January to September, really September 1st, we took all of those concepts, insights, direction from the consumers and owners and investors, came back to the advisory council, said, all right, we confirmed what we want to do here. We need to change this. But by September 1, our team delivered on spec-ready programming.
Wow.
Spec-ready, purchase-ready product, new design in terms of how we had to modify the building. Everything was ready to go. So we're just really starting to take advantage now of really selling what is the modified or updated Element in a Loft kind of programming and some of the design concepts.
So what are some of the changes then that developers can see that you think that they're going to be really into and go, okay, now I'm ready for this brand?
So if you go to a Loft specifically, they really hadn't had a full design update since they launched the brand. So they were going on 10 years. Marriott has a cadence that really every 3 to 5 years, because we know we have a 7-year renovation cycle, that our owners and investors are going to start to look to us at how do I, continue to keep my product up to date.
Right.
So that's a big piece. So if you were to come and see the new Aloft design package in the guest room, we heard from the owners to take out some of the cost, not necessarily take out so much of the cost, but trade the cost for things that were more relevant, easier to renovate. We could add more color, we could add more art, give me some flexibility in the room, and that's what we built in. And then we came out with and just launched this first quarter of the year a new food and beverage concept. One of the things that we were really challenged with Loft was the food scores.
Right.
The consumers were saying, "Give me a better breakfast." We hear that around the world, right? Even though everybody eats generally the same 3 or 4 things every single day for breakfast, when they get to the hotel, they say, give me something interesting.
Hey,
right?
listen, look, I like to demand great, healthy eating options all the time. And then this morning, of course, I went for the waffle.
So our food and beverage team, Jason Newell and his team came up with this awesome concept called pots. This is for a Loft specifically. And you can buy a pot. And if you think about this little pot, and it can have eggs and bacon, potatoes, but it's kind of a stand-up eating.
I thought we were talking about Denver again.
No, not that kind of pot. But what I got so fired up about this is when you think about a brand that's growing across continent.
Yeah.
I can do a Korean breakfast in a Korean pot.
Oh,
I can
sweet.
do it, right? I can be in Europe and develop, bangers and beans and all that good stuff that they like to eat in the morning. And so the pot concept, I think, is going to be really, really, it's going to take off well. It's easy to understand. It's fresh made. They've done a really, really good about how to customize it in a very quick manner. But also meeting that millennial-minded traveler for a second who's really used today of kind of grab-and-go, stand-up eating, as we refer to it, whether that, you look at the trends of, people buying breakfast at Starbucks and how many millions of people are doing that. But, it's really about not everybody sitting around the table, particularly for breakfast this day. So give me something that I can move with.
Okay, so if people like the food at Starbucks, then why weren't they happy with the food at a Loft? Because that food at Starbucks is not setting the bar high.
Well, no, but a lot of people buy it.
Yeah.
But it's about innovation, and I think that's the thing. What we have taken, it's the concept of that stand-up eating.
Yeah,
I'm not
right.
necessarily talking about the quality
I
of
understand.
the food. It's about that grab and go.
I just wanted to slam Starbucks as I'm drinking my Starbucks coffee that you can see here on
We never
Facebook
slam
Live.
our friends.
Yeah.
Come on. But it's just that concept of how do we, instead of having to be forced to sit down or go through a buffet, how do I get something that I can take with me that's fun and thoughtful? Or if I just want to sit in the lobby and sit in a regular chair, then I can do it that way too. So anyways, and then on Element, we'll be opening the first kind of the new generation. The big challenge there was just some of the design aspects from a cost perspective we had to pull out of the building. Stuff that the consumer would never even see, whether it was just the mechanical and electrical plan. It was some changes in some of the finishes. It was a concept that we also think, and I think our ownership community is getting excited about, is I won't call it a chase to try to compete wholeheartedly in the sharing concept of the world. I'm not going to say the name. But how do we give a nod to those consumers who like to share communal space, communal travel, right? And so we've developed this common suite. So in Element in itself, it's a mix of suites and standard guest rooms. That's the brand's always been that way. So we have now standard guest rooms that open up into a private communal suite, let's call it.
Right.
We call it the common suite. So this is a way for, if you were on a bachelor party, if you were on a leisure weekend, or you were traveling with 10 or, a business group and we're doing, wanted to do a group meeting, you could actually buy the whole suite, which would be 6 or 8 rooms that open up into this communal suite.
Well, I'm really glad that you brought this up, Eric, because I think this is a fabulous idea. I think it's really on trend right now. And forget everything that you just said. I'll add a different perspective to it. Multi-generational travel, which is so huge right now. I can see grandma and grandpa in one room, mom and dad in another, the kids in one or two other rooms, depending on how many you have, the in-laws, whatever it might be. And I think all of this has the idea of togethering. So instead of just having to be alone together in the lobby with everybody, you can now have your own private space that you could call your own to do whatever you want. Right. Especially with those bachelor parties, or for me, if I'm craving a guy's weekend away and stuff like that, I could still be social but have the privacy that I personally crave since I was raised an only child.
But it's not just a social piece here. This is also an opportunity, I think, in the business community. If you think at federal courthouses where legal teams come together and work weeks at a time.
Right.
This lends its hand to that. If you have tech teams or bio research teams who are doing group work together, which is what we hear a lot of today, this suite also provides it lends its hand to that. So we require one. We have a number of owners who are putting one on each floor. And we have adding 2 or 3. But we think it's a concept that I think will leverage the opportunity within the extended stay and the communal travel.
Yeah. Now, I over the summer I stayed at one of those the Voldemort company, the brand that shall not be named, and it was great because I had multiple bedrooms and then a common area for us to be productive, just like you were saying.
That's right.
We were shooting video and doing all of that kind of stuff, so it was great to be able to spread out on a big table, get our work done, be productive, and just find more success. And I think that's really what the hospitality experience is getting to be all about, enabling the guests to find success and, have a great environment in which to do it.
Agreed. I think that's we use those words a lot around our building.
Yeah.
Right?
So the other brand that I'm curious about, one of the legacy brands from Starwood, is the 4 Points brand. Yep. I felt under the old regime, it was the brand that time forgot. Nobody was really giving it the love and attention. Maybe it's just that the PR people weren't reaching out to me. I don't know. But I feel like now that it's behind your engine, stuff is changing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good things going on around 4 Points. I know, first of all, I'll say from the development team and from the brand and the OFS team, we're excited about the opportunity. We are working on an updated development plan. Right. Not, again, I'll call it a modification, because Starwood had done a really nice job of just launching within the last year and a half a really great room concept in partnership with West Elm. So it's a really great look and feel. We just need to modify some of the overall building and bring down some of the cost.
I think that's great, because the whole West Elm partnership kind of changes the whole tenor of what the brand means to me.
That's correct.
Because to me, I felt like the brand used to be very fungible, right? It could be any name could be on the door, and it would be the same kind of experience.
Well, I think when they launched the brand, let's face it, they were struggling with some old Sheraton hotels that no longer kind of fit what the Sheraton brand was. A lot of it was location. It was suburban, 160 room, not a full service hotel in the sense of having the big building and the big spaces and those kinds of things. So the suburban full-service hotel was struggling, and I think what they ultimately decided to move, create a brand to move some of that. So it had this connotation of it was a conversion brand, right?
Right.
But I would tell you today we have excellent number of new builds going on across North America. We're going to come out with, in the next couple of weeks, a real development incentive to help us drive growth around 4 Points. So there's going to be real dollars that the company's going to stand behind this brand, say to the investment community, this is not a trash brand. This is not where your old dying hotel goes, but this is going to be a fresh, relevant brand. The product is great. The programming is great. The Best Brews program, which is all about local craft brew programs and those kinds of things, and that resonates around the world.
And that's the one thing. And I'm kind of annoyed, because they were the craft brew brand before craft brews anyone cared about. They were the craft brew brand in the first round of craft brews in the mid to late 1990s.
That's true.
And then everyone forgot about it, and now all of a sudden it's the biggest business, and everybody's trying to copy that.
And by the way, it resonates around the world. So whether it's a 4 Points in Europe or it's a 4 Points in Asia, beer is big, craft brew is big, and I just think that it's a great program, and it's helped to solidify, listen, I'm not a stuffy brand. I'm very approachable. Come have fun. Enjoy. West Elm does a wonderful job from a design of making people feel current, relevant, and comfortable in the guest room.
Right.
We think it's a great product with a lot of runway here in the United States and Canada, and around the world for that matter.
That's pretty cool. So, what's it like for you overall, being able to offer all of these different brand opportunities now to the franchise community? Is it tough to? Is it easy, or is it really just tough to keep track of all the brands that you have now?
People always laugh because they've heard from me this. We're paid to say yes. We're never paid to say no. So
right.
In the development world. So the great thing is I don't have to say no. I have options today, right? And I think part of my job, though, I will tell you, has become much more complicated. Back in the day when I just had 5 brands to distribute and make sure we grow them all at the same rate and all that good stuff. Now that you have 10, I have 10 brand managers coming to my office after every development committee going, well, why did I only have 2 and that brand had 5?
Right.
And so everybody wants to grow to the largest footprint that makes sense for that brand. They want to be in the best location. So, it challenges my team to make sure that what we're doing in terms of leading with a particular brand or a particular product is more insightful. And we're using real data analytics to really try to define that for us. So when you come to me and have a site, if it's select service for a minute, we have 10 choices to help you determine what's going to be the best investment for you. Part of that is let's study about how consumers are traveling and which types of consumers might be over-indexing in a particular market, right? And so we can then say, hey, lead with a distinctive product versus a classic product, right? And we're actually utilizing big data analytics, mashing, to really kind of define which brand to lead with, what's the right number of keys to build in this market, and then how do we also be able to speak to how big can that brand be in a particular region.
That's super interesting to me that you're using the power of computing to be able to say, oh, this location is great and it would be perfect for this particular brand, and we've been able to crunch all this big data to prove our point.
That's right. I mean, if you think about we've got a Starwood, SPG, American Express. We have a Marriott Rewards Visa. I mean, we know how you travel. We know what you eat. We know where what kind of car you drive, and how many kids you have.
So how many pillows do I like at night?
3.
Yes, you knew it. Oh, wow, that big data, man. Now I'm totally freaked out. That's pretty great. So somebody comes to you, they could not only be given a suite of brands, but they could be told specifically here, blah, 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 this is what you need. Can you get it down to even this is the optimal number of rooms that we believe that your market requires?
Because of franchising laws, I can never get to the actual
I understand.
room.
Okay.
I'll always give you a range.
All right.
My lawyers should be happy with that.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that answer, and the lawyers have got to make money too. So
no, but one of the reasons we also do the predictive analytics is to make sure that we are right sizing. Again, with 10 brands, we want to make sure there is excess in incremental demand, because one of the challenges we have, and one of the things we always talk about with this group, AHOA today, is really about cannibalization, right?
Right.
And that's been some of the biggest concern around adding more brands onto the system. If I already have a Courtyard or Residence Inn and now you're going to bring in an Element, is there enough demand for all of us to be healthy and successful, or are you just cannibalizing, right? That's always a big topic in the franchising business. So this also gives us a tool to help say, hey, demand is high here, and here's the appropriate number of rooms to build in this market that will, the theory or the predictive part is that it will be the least impactful on our existing brands. So we are trying to take that into consideration as we are thinking about how we grow our brands in the market, making sure we have the optimal number of rooms without cannibalizing our existing system.
Great. That's really nice and reassuring to hear, because a lot of times I think the perception can be we're introducing a new brand just so we could sell it again to the community that you're in and put it across the street from you, right?
That's right. That's right.
So by having all this and the data to back it up, you could show that that's not the case, and it's a lot easier. Plus, you could probably sell it more easily to the guy that already has that hotel from that empty plot of land across the street.
If it says anything, at least we're looking at the information, right? There's always been a charge that we are charged with growth. We're a growth company. But, we take the motto at our companies, let's grow in the right places with the right product at the right time. And that's been part of our success and the partnerships that we have, and why people want to do a business with Marriott is because we take that approach.
Right.
It's not just about growth for growth's sake. It's the right kind of growth at the right time.
Right. If you're just tuning into the Facebook Live feed that we have going on, I'm speaking with Eric Jacobs, Marriott International's Chief Development Officer of Select Brands North America, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that Fairfield brand. Right.
Great.
Now you're expanding. It seems pretty nicely. The reason why I wanted to bring it up selfishly is because I stayed at a future Fairfield just this past weekend as we were recording. I took the lovely bride to go see a concert in Brooklyn, and our kids were having a sleepover date in Staten Island. So I stayed at the Staten Island Hotel, New York, which I thought was an unusual name. I walk in, I look to the right, it says "Coming soon, Fairfield."
Oh,
so
wow.
now I got Fairfield on the top of my mind.
Well, listen, we've about 4 or 5 years ago came
Yep.
out with a new product, a new positioning. We knew that the brand needed a facelift, for that matter. The investment community was saying, "Hey, they're some of the other brands, competitive brands, are running out of spots. They're oversaturated. Fairfield's got an opportunity to grow," and we really worked hard with our partnership in the community and said, "Look, we'll make this commitment if you guys will make this commitment." We now have, it's the largest pipeline here in North America. We're pushing almost 400 in the pipeline.
What?
We should reach open hotels, 1,000 Fairfields worldwide, probably later this year or early next year would be my prediction based on what we have under construction and projected openings.
Wow.
But we'll reach that 1,000 market. Now, compared to some of my competitive brands, that's still small when you think about some of the other brands that are out there. But we, again, growing at the right place at the right time, not necessarily just growth for growth's sake. And I think that's the piece that we are focused on. If you look at how we like to grow, we want to be at the highest value locations and the highest value markets with the best partners in the business. So it's not always just about,
right.
I have an old boss who used to say, "Is it just grow stupid or is it just grow stupid?"
Yeah.
That's an Adrian Curry quote, if anybody knows him out there. But
Yeah.
but we really are trying to manage, the right kind of growth.
Right. So one place that you do want to grow is the Moxie brand here in the United States. Now, I happen to
Worldwide.
Yes, but yes, we definitely want to. But I feel like it was caught on globally more first, and here in the United States, it's a little bit behind.
Yep.
So I feel
for sure.
right. It has European genes to it.
It does,
right?
it does.
That's why I phrased it that way. But obviously, you want to grow it worldwide, and I'm
Yep.
sure as soon as you have the opportunity, you'll put one on the moon too. But
We would.
right? But I really like the brand. I happen to have stayed at the New York one last
Great.
November, and for those of you who are listening to the show, check out my interview with the Lightstone Group's Michelle Hochberg. We talk all about the development of the New York property, including the city's largest rooftop bar and all of those experiences there. So I liked it. I thought it was a very good product to me, very on trend in the sense that the rooms, they were New York small, but I didn't feel like they were small. I felt like it had everything I needed in the places that I needed it. And then the public spaces were just amazing.
Yeah.
I had so much fun connecting in different atmospheres with people.
Well, listen, we believe this brand resides in the public space. I mean,
Right.
that's the concept a bit. We are seeing worldwide rooms go smaller, not just rooms, everything getting smaller, right? We see how condos
Right.
and your homes are getting smaller. People
Including me, I'm at the age now where I'm starting to shrink
starting
as well.
to shrink.
Yeah.
I'm still growing, so unfortunately. But when we give up, so what we give up in terms of size in the guest room, we don't give up in quality, right? And actually, you have a very well appointed room. We're getting high scores, whether that's in Manhattan or Seattle or Denver, for a really thoughtful, fun, creative room. Right, but it's not a room that you're kind of, it's not like going to a luxury resort where you say, "Hey, I'm going to hang out in the room." This
Right.
is a room that's functional, well appointed. But what I really want, this is really going to the consumer who says, "I want to be out in the public."
Right.
And so it's really about the public space and the public space engagement. This is a brand where you check in at the bar right now. I mean, there is no front desk, right?
Mm-hmm.
For Marriott, think about this, right? 90-year-old company, to launch a brand with no front desk is a little out there for us,
Right?
And it causes some of our executives to go, "Oh my gosh, what are we doing? Where's the traditional play here?" But that's part of what we're trying to do, even in our own. We want to be part of this disruption in the business as well, about thinking about how people are going to travel, how particular age demographic or psychographic.
Right.
It's no longer longer just demographic. It's about the psychographic. Right?
To me, it's always been about psychographics ever since Chip Conley back in the Joie de Vivre days really brought that to my attention.
Right.
I got to say 15, 18 years ago.
That's right.
Once he came up with the revelation that, we're going to design this hotel over this this magazine, you know?
That's correct.
And it really changed the way I viewed hotels. And, of course, you can listen to the Chip Conley interview on the No Vacancy podcast. Check our history there, or whatever, the backlog of shows, or whatever I'm trying to say. But, yeah, it's an interesting point to me that you're making there.
Because I think, for many, many years, when Marriott launched brands, we were always talking about the broadest based customers we possibly could. Mm-hmm. I think Moxie, more so than ever, has really said, look, there's this age demographic, there's this consumer psyche, which isn't necessarily age specific,
right, that
says, I want to travel and I want it to be fun, mm-hmm, and I want it to be interesting, and I want it to be, in some cases, communal, right? We're seeing all those travel trends. Because in some ways, the public space is a bit nod to the old hostel days, right? Where you would come together and meet people from all over the world in different walks of life. Mm-hmm. And that's what this public space is really all about.
Right.
Whether you want to chill and work, whether you want to chill and socialize, whether you want to go down and, have a good drink and laugh it up at the bar with your friends.
Yeah.
And all of that kind of occurs in this public space. And that's really about the positioning of Moxie. It's about a great, small, well-appointed room with great, finishes and amenities, but it's really about a public space experience that you really want to hang out in, not just for an hour, but all afternoon, all day, and into the evening.
Right.
I happened to be in Frankfurt 2 weeks ago, happened to walk in at 11 o'clock at night just to see what was going on. I wish I could have taken a movie.
Right.
There were people of all ages, some playing chess, some playing foosball, some having drinks at the bar, other people just working, and it's that concept that is where I think Moxie appeals.
So how does the property in Seattle or outside Denver, for example, differ than what my experience was like in New York? Because I'm sure it's tied aesthetically and emotionally to the communities in which they're in.
Sure. Now, New York's an anomaly, right? It's got 9 restaurants and bars. Not every one of our Moxies is going to have that.
It's just not practical or realistic.
And it's a 630-room hotel. But from a guest room perspective, you're going to see all of the same similar fit and finishes and feel. Around the public space, and that's the key around Moxie, no two public spaces are going to look alike. You're going to have the bar, you're going to have the zones and the seating area, but how they're finished are going to relate to the local market. So Denver and Seattle, while very similar in terms of physical plant, the look and feel of each one of those is very unique, right? The one in Seattle feels very Seattle around some of the finishes, some of the art that's in there, some of the drinks that they offer, some of the food offerings. But when you go to Denver, it's got an outdoor beer garden and things like that because you get 7 or 8 months of just awesome outdoor experience. It's got a garage door and it really takes an indoor-outdoor public space. So we're gonna play with that no matter where we go. And we've got 14 under construction, so we'll have a number of those continue to open over the next 12 to 14 months. So we're excited about the path of that brand.
So how do you approach creating something that gives the guest a promise from a particular point of view, but allows each hotel to live independently and breathe independently from its design and what its offerings are?
Well, that's a little bit of the play in the boutique space, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, when Marriott decided to go into this space, whether that was Autograph, right, or in case of Starwood Tribute, but thinking about how I play Moxie for a minute, and you look around the space, whether there are other boutique independent hotels, there were some small boutique brands, our ownership group saw the trends and they say, look, here's a space. It's I may not get the number exactly right, but it's like a $1.5 billion customer space as we define it. And, Marriott didn't have a product to play in there, right? So our opportunity to go play in this, distinctive lifestyle with a very distinct point of view and not try to blend itself in with the broader base portfolio of Marriott, but really stand out. I mean, it's truly a different experience for a Marriott branded hotel for a moment.
Oh,
I mean, we have, folks who have been staying with us, 20, 30 years walk in there and their eyes just go, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the first time I walked in, and I have to say the New York property, because it's my only frame of reference at this point, it just did not feel like the traditional Marriott experience. And I think that opens up the company to a lot of opportunities, you know?
Well, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to also appeal. Again, when you think about the world customer that continues to develop today, it's no longer, 20 years ago, we studied 98%, we studied the American consumer. Today, this is about a global consumer.
Right.
And even the American consumers become more global, right? I think about the number of trips I've taken in the last 10 or 15 years across, whether it's China, and throughout Asia, whether it's through the Middle East, or whether it's through Europe, we're all becoming much more, globe trekking. And so how do we appeal to you, and how do we appeal to all these different likes and dislikes around the world, and have a portfolio that meets them at their needs and at their price point?
Right. And, with so many brands in your family, I think it's 32 at this point overall.
I still think it's 30, but there's some brand extensions in there.
Right.
When you take Ritz Residences.
Yeah, all right.
I think
we'll
we
say
would
30.
still say 30. There's
Right.
some brand extensions.
We'll
in
say
there.
29 so Marriott could feel young and sexy.
Sure.
How's that sound? Sorry. I'm really, really good at making horrible jokes. Okay, so to me, that gives you lots of opportunities there as well. I happen to stay at AC Hotel in Madrid. I've not stayed at many Autograph Collection hotels. That was great. There's one here. That used to be a former company's brand that you're now having,
AC,
and
that's
it's great to see. It's great to see that over there. I love the AC hotels because again, it follows that similar DNA, but highly localized experiences, and we all know that that's what everybody wants, from the full service hotels to the select service hotels that you focus on.
Yeah, I think it's that, listen, the consistency is around a comfortable, safe, welcoming stay, one that folks where the associate. Listen, everybody's got great rooms. Everybody's got great boxes. It's really about what do the associates do in terms of igniting a stay, and those personal connections that the associates create. But certainly the environment that we put them in and how we design them and finish them helps to promote that. And I think that's the key, and that's really where we are focused on. It's not just innovating in the guest room around technology or design. It's also about how do we think about our associates and how do they engage today, and what tools do we give them to engage today, because the consumer expects so much more, because we're all carrying a concierge in our hand and an iPhone, right?
Right. Honestly, I'm getting tired of the concierge in my pocket, right? I think, to me, and we'll wrap up after this part of the conversation.
Sure.
I thought I loved a particular site that allowed me to focus on restaurants, but I'm starting to realize over time that sure, it could have 155-star ratings, but it doesn't mean those people know good food. It doesn't mean people know good service. I've come to the realization that if I could connect with someone at the hotel that really has an understanding of the local community and make me feel like an insider within that community, there we can have a special moment of hospitality which will engage me more with the hotel, even if I'm eating down the street.
Well, and I think that's where the evolution or the innovation of where technology is going to allow us to do that going forward. When you think of the old concept is I am a front desk clerk. Clerk meant transaction today. Well, if we can release these associates from behind the desk in providing a transaction, now they become true experience hosts. And I think that's the future of travel. I think that's the future of how we will engage with our customer is to take our associates and make them true hosts of the hotel and of their overall experience in the community, not just selling a hotel room, but the experience of where they are in that location.
And again, you focus on the select service properties, and you are absolutely right. It's all about turning what used to be transactional into the experiential, taking your staff folks and having them and setting them up so they can make those emotional connections with guests, because we have so much technology out there that we're losing sight of why hospitality is great. It's hospitality because of people. And while AI is terrific and it's going to enable a stay to be better, it will only do it if the people can make it work.
That's correct. And take advantage of it.
Yep.
That's right.
All right, so I think we should wrap up here with a good quality shameless plug from you. Go for it, Eric Jacobs.
Well, listen, here at Marriott, we're at the AHOA convention. We're happy to be here. My whole team here from across the United States, 26 of us strong. We're looking to engage with as many owners as we can today. But overall, again, Marriott's a great place to work for me. We love doing business. We love as Mr. Marriott challenges us every day, it's not just the business that we do, it's how we do the business. And I think if we were going to make one big plug, is our approach to development and partnership is the key to our success.
Great.
Pick great partners, make the right decisions one by one, and not just take a broad-based approach to it.
How can somebody find you and your team, assuming they're not at the OHO event, because this podcast will run as an audio version a couple of weeks after this event is over?
Ooh.
All right.
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, other than giving him my personal number, but I'm not sure I want to do that.
You can find Eric Jacobs on LinkedIn. And of course, you can go to the Marriott International Development site.
How about MarriottDevelopment.com? That would be the best place for them to go.
There you go, MarriottDevelopment.com. You can find him over there. This has been a lot of fun. I feel like you were right. We could have spoken for 3 hours today. This is really terrific.
Thank you.
It's fun to have a nice, easy, free-flowing conversation. And I will be back with you guys with another interview, unless, of course, I decide to go get lost at a Denver Moxie. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at TravelingGlenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.